and welcome to MATV Live Kashmir in Focus. You can watch our program live on YouTube and Facebook as well. Today is a very important day because today the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly is now almost in full swing. And what happened today is that today is also a day when Pakistan on the 23rd of September got beaten up by Indian forces in 1965 war. So it has got double significance. But the most important thing that I want to bring to light today is what happened in the British Parliament. Today in the British Parliament, one after another, British MPs stood up and started India bashing. They used Kashmir as their excuse to talk against India, and there was a 2 hour debate period that was specially allocated in the British Parliament today to discuss Kashmir. Why today? Because Pakistan has engineered everything and systematically a fake dossier president of Pakistan last week in Pakistan during a press conference. Then they started talking about Kashmir, and today they try to make an attempt in a week to terrorists into Jammu that they can go in and create havoc. And foreign minister and his entourage in New York attending the UN General Assembly said and then say that, oh, you see, the Indian army is killing innocent civilians. Now, the British MPs have shut the British Parliament because the words and the phrases they were using absolutely unacceptable. They were calling Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji the butcher of Gujarat. They were talking about a genocide of Muslims in Indian Union territory of. They were throwing kind of fake narratives that have been created by the Pakistani ISI. Hence, the parliament today looked similar to a parliament that is more parliament of jihadists. Praising Ali Shah Gilani, can you believe that? The guy who has got blood of thousands of young, innocent Kashmiri youth on his hands, or the head of Jamaat Army, the man who till his death, till his last breath was calling for jihad, was calling the break of India. They were praising him from the floor of the British Parliament. It's unbelievable. Only 2 warriors I could spot who were standing by the people of Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir and Pakistani occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. MP Bob Blackman and MP Barry Gardner. They braved the occasion. They fought like real warriors, and they tried to present a different perspective. But they were too many. They said they were two, but their two were not enough. They put up a good fight. I salute both of the British parliaments. One from the party, Bob Blackman, the other from Barry Gardner from the Labour Party. Why Labour Party is still alive? Why are still, some of the sections of British society still look up to Labour Party? It's not because of Tony Blair. It's not because of Jeremy Corbyn or this new one who is leading, whose name even no one knows who is the leader of Labour Party. Labour Party is alive because of Robin Cook. Robin Cook refused to budge to the mantra of weapons of mass destruction that George W. Bush and his poodle Tony were spreading across the globe in a baseless accusation in order to invade Iraq. And Barry Gardner is Robin Cook then had to resign. He resigned. He refused to budge. And similarly, today Barry Gardner is a knight. He's a warrior who stood on the floor of the parliament and went against all official party narrative about Kashmir and stood there and spoke the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, I can go on and on. Pakistan has been committing war crimes. No, not a single word has been uttered about Pakistan's atrocities being committed in Kashmir. And before I invite my guest, I would like to run through the atrocities and the war crimes that Pakistan has committed. Remember that war crime, in order to qualify for war crime, you have to meet three categories. Number one, it should be a war of aggression against humanity, and number three, crime against peace. Pakistan falls into these three categories. Let me remind you that on 22nd of October 1947, Pakistan invaded India. Pakistan invaded the independent state of Jammu and Kashmir on 22nd of October 1947, creating an environment where there was war, which ended in 1949 on 5th of January. Then the Operation Dakhel, which started on the 26th of October 1947 and Gilgit-Baltistan 31st October 1947. Then Operation Gulmarg, that began in August 1965, and it was defeated by the Indian Army on 23rd of September 1965. Then we have the Operation Topak. Operation Topak is a terrorist plan of Pakistan military to keep infiltrating people, to try and kill as many non-Muslims in Kashmir and create havoc in Kashmir and create a false narrative that the Kashmiris are, not happy with the government and they want secession and they want to join Pakistan. Operation Topak, by the way, started in the 1980s, is an ongoing project. So it hasn't stopped yet. Then in between, we have the Kargil War, which started on the 3rd of May, 1999. And then again, Pakistan was beaten and the war ended on 26th of July, 1999. Now, about personal individual persecutions. Recently, Khwaja Wasim Ayub, who is a young lad and a social media activist, was arrested on 17th of September this year just because he was posting information regarding corruption in Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir, corruption by the local administration. He was arrested and he was denied bail on Monday, but then we launched an international campaign and locally people started protesting, and there was this UNGA as well, so they thought that we better give him a bail. So yesterday he got his bail, which is good, and he's at his home. 21st June this year, Dr. Ghulam Abbas, a POJK-born Canadian citizen, was visiting his family to attend his father's funeral. After 2 weeks, he was shot in the face and killed only because he talked about Hindu and Muslim harmony in Kashmir. He was killed 17th, 2013. Ali Murtaza, a young lad who was visiting his line of control, was captured by the military post. He, while he was still alive, with electric drill machine, his body was cut open. When they removed the body to the parents and buried him, then Advocate Arif Shahid, who doesn't know about Arif Shahid, the political leader of POJK, who was claimed independence from Pakistan. He was shot dead outside his house in Rawalpindi on May 14, 2013. Then Naeem Bhatt was police firing while there was a peaceful procession in on March 16 to 18. That is the day when Maharaja Gulab Singh formed the state. 16th of March 2018, he was killed. Then on 26th and 21, we have this firing that was 25th of this year. We had elections in POJK. On the 26th, the Pakistan army, which was returning to their barracks, their car broke down. They flagged down a private car. They dragged the woman out of the car and wanted them to be transported to their camp. Their driver refused. There was a scuffle. Youth came in, and the army opened fire, killing at least one young man, injuring more than 15, including SHO, special house officer, and police officer who was at the place incident. Tanveer Ahmed is a very everybody knows about Tanveer Ahmed. He's a British citizen. He was born in Kashmir, but he went to Britain when he was a child. He got his education there, and then he came back to POJK. And he came back to POJK in order to do research about the atrocities being committed by the Pakistani government side, Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir. On the 5th of August, he pulled down a Pakistani public square because he said this is a disputed area, flag. After several complaints, the local administration refused to take the flag down. So he went and he pulled the flag down. He wrapped it up and presented them very respectfully. He was beaten on the spot and then put in jail. And in Mirpur, he was sentenced to 2 years rigorous imprisonment. I can go on and on. But now I do not want to waste your time. I just want to show you a photograph that has surfaced today. And this photograph speaks a million words. This is the photo. These are the weapons, the hand grenades, the guns, the bullets that were captured from those who were trying to infiltrate into Uri today, just today. So now, without further ado, I would like to invite my esteemed guest. You all know him. He has been on this show before, Mr. Lalit Ambardarji. Thank you very much. Namaste for joining us. And well, you've heard my not so brief introduction to today's program. What do you think of this Pakistani propaganda about Kashmir, that there is a genocide and there is a lockdown and everyone is like, people are, Muslim women are not safe and they are being raped day and night, and thousands of Muslim youth are in prison, and this dark picture about Kashmir, this narrative that Pakistan has woven around around the truth. How do you see this?
Dr. Saab, let me tell you one thing. It's high time Great Britain came out of this psychological syndrome of great game and Cold War. Pakistan is an illegitimate product of Great Game followed by Cold War. That was midwife by very Great Britain. Pakistan no legitimacy to be existing on this globe. They created it only to suit their own colonial interests, and it's going to be very harming the not only in India. India is quite capable of resisting and confronting Pakistan and the Pakistan origin jihad. Let me remind the British audience, Kashmir jihad is not about any independence movement. Kashmir jihad is not about, how can they call it an independence movement? How can they call Kashmiri jihad as freedom fighters? They know it. Who was the Governor General of India when Pakistan, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh acceded as per the Independence of India Act of Parliament? The Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh acceded to India as per the Act of the British Parliament. And who was the Governor General of India? Mountbatten. And Mountbatten accepted that. In fact, he goaded the Maharaja to accept India as the only legitimate destination for a progressive Maharaja like Maharaja Hari Singh. And now what happens today? The very British Parliament is out there to negate, to nullify what was done by what was done under the watch of then Governor General of India, Mountbatten. Also, let me tell you, these British parliamentarians they don't do anything for free. They are lobbyists. And as I say today, I maintain it. ISI is today the most efficient espionage agency in the world. It's more than any Western country. They cannot claim anywhere closer to ISI. They have destroyed Afghanistan. They have tried to bleed India for the past 30 years through this Kashmir Jihad. Taliban were created by them. And mark it, if you study all the terror jihadi attacks happening anywhere in the world, you can trace their origin to Pakistan, either directly or indirectly through some other route. Pakistan today is the epicenter of global jihad. And when you talk about Kashmir, you talked about this guy called Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani. Let me remind the British audience, Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani was a puppet of ISI. If they recall, this Asad Durrani and this Dulat, Indian Raw Chief, and the ISI Raw Chief, they co-authored a book in which Asad Durrani publicly acknowledges that Hurriyat Conference, which this Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani headed, was created by Pakistan to be their representative in Kashmir. And for that, this Asad Durrani, Lieutenant General Asad Durrani, was almost court-martialed by the Pakistan, by Rawalpindi, GSQ Rawalpindi. So to claim that the people who are not only anti-India, Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani's slogan was Azadi Baraye Islam in Kashmir. That would mean Azadi for Islam, the independence, freedom for Islam in Kashmir. That is what this Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani was. And locally, people called him Osama bin Laden of Kashmir. He is responsible for the macabre death and destruction playing out in the streets of Kashmir for the first 30 years. His own children, he ensured that they got the best of this world in India, in rest of India, in Pakistan, and rest of the world. While as he inveigled the boys of poor Muslims of downtown Kashmir to join jihad and die. This is called Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani. I regret that he died a natural death. He should have been tried under a tribunal for genocide of Kashmiri Hindus and then hanged to death. Hanged to death. And the shameless British parliamentarians do not realize. Let me remind them, one of the first Fidaian attacks in Indian subcontinent was by a Birmingham-born Bilal Ahmed, who had never been to this part of the world earlier. He came and blew himself up in a Maruti car in Kashmir, in Srinagar, on the eve of 2000 Christmas. He was Bilal Ahmed, Birmingham-born. If only the UK, the West, had taken cognizance of that Fidaian attack, I'm quite sure the serial blast in London railways and even 9/11 would have been avoided. You remember the Glasgow bombing, Glasgow airport bombing? Who was one of the principal Fidaians of that? He was Bangalore-born Kafil Ahmed. Kafil Ahmed did not go to blow himself up all the way to Glasgow to avenge some Hindu radicals back home in India. And they talk Narendra Modi as the butcher of Gujarat. Shameless people. Narendra Modi today is the most scrutinized political leader in the world. He was scrutinized by his opponent party called Congress. They tried every legal aspect to catch him, to somehow implicate him. And he faced every judicial process, every investigation procedure, and came out of it legally without any stain. And let these British people remember the riots of Gujarat were a result of 55 Hindus were roasted alive by Islamist arsonists in Gujarat, in Godhra. Why do you forget those lives? Hindu lives matter. And the
Laliji,
genocide
I
of
have only
Kashmiri
got
Hindus.
I have got
Let
only
me
two
come
minutes
back to
left, so
Kashmir.
I would like you to now
Let
focus on
me,
the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus.
Kashmiri Hindus, let me tell you, Kashmiri Hindus are the aborigines of Kashmir. 5,000 plus years old, written, recorded history they claim. And over a period of 700 years since the arrival of Islam in Kashmir, they were reduced to a minuscule minority in Kashmir. And in 1990, with the advent of Pakistan origin Kashmir Jihad, pan-Islamism inspired jihad in terror infested Kashmir Jihad, the first victims of that were Kashmiri Hindus. It was rape, murder, mass murder. You talked about a POJK activist Murtaza. He was killed using those soldering rods. Let me remind you, in exactly similar situation, Girja Tikku, who was raped, gang raped, and then killed on an electrical saw machine by Kashmiri jihadis, that this British parliament comes out and calls them freedom fighters. Let me also tell these people, you claim to be liberals. Listen, the IRA political wing, Sinn Féin's Gary Adams' voice, you did not allow to be shown, to be echoed on BBC, because they were terrorists for you. Irish Republican Army were terrorists for you. And Kashmiri jihadis, you call them freedom fighters, they will come for you also. Look what they did in Afghanistan. Look how you had to flee in the middle of the night, including you Americans, you Britishers. You fled fearing Taliban. And you want to tell us Indians who are fighting this Talibanization of Kashmir for the past 30 years. Kashmir Jihad is the Himalayan end of Islamist arc that originates from Middle East, traverses Afghanistan, Pakistan. Remember, we are in the forefront of this global jihad, fighting for 30 years. There is not a single district in India which has not contributed one of his sons to go to fighting Kashmir Jihad in Kashmir. Kashmiri Hindu genocide. Today, it is shameful for this British Parliament to ignore what has happened in Pakistan. You are being lobbyists for Pakistan. Hindus and Sikhs were 25% at 1947 at the time of partition. Today, they are reduced to 2%. Genocide of Balochistan, genocide of Shias, genocide of Ahmadiyas. And you call yourself to be representatives of so-called liberal ideas? No, you're stooges of JSQ Rawalpindi. You're stooges of ISA British parliamentarians. I salute through you. I thank Bob Blackman and this guy called
Barry Gardner.
Barry Gardner.
Barry
And
Gardner.
also yes, let me remind these British parliament, it was your Major Brown, who raised the Pakistani flag on Gilgit. Otherwise, Gilgit would not have fallen to Pakistan. You facilitated fall of Gilgit to Pakistan, and who were fighting a war against India wearing Shilmar Kameez in the garb of tribals, and you facilitated that under your own chief of army staff who was there in Pakistan that time, and you call yourself liberals. Remember, jihadists are rising in your own England. They will not spare you unless you confront them. Face the reality. Jihad is a threat to humanity. Have guts to accept that, because your money that is flowing into these parliamentarians' pockets from ISI is going to be very, very harmful to the United Kingdom. I pity the people of London. Is basically called a little Pakistan. Look how they campaign themselves. How on a notice of seconds they organize themselves in London, your capital. And as I said, UK is the epicenter of this European terror in terms of radicalization. In terms of, you have these centers everywhere. You have a London Kashmir center in London. You have a Kashmir center in Belgium. They are run by ISI. They are run by ISI. Your parliamentarians, your British parliamentarians patronize them. Shame. Shame on you guys. We do not interfere in your Irish problem. We do not interfere in your Scotland problem. We do not interfere in the internal affairs of United Kingdom. They have no right to interfere in our India's right. And they should be thankful to India that India is confronting
British
the
Parliament
jihadists
has
in
no
Kashmir.
right to interfere. Lalit Ambardar ji has said in his concluding remark, and as we run out of time, but we don't run out of our esteem, we don't run out of our commitment to fight against the global jihad, and the global jihad epicenter now is shifting from Kabul to Kashmir, and we have to fight it, we have to uproot it, and we have to bring peace to the world. And we pray for Pakistan to be disintegrated, not because we hate the people of Pakistan, because we love the people of Pakistan who have been subjugated by an elite oligarchy of the Pakistan military, the mullah, and the feudal lords. Thank you very much for being next time on Tuesdays, same time, 6 time. Thank you very much, and God bless you.